Hi, everyone. Welcome to the Big Thinker universe. And really, truly, I want to share my vision of what this can be, should be, will be. And I'd like to share a couple thoughts on how I see this having an impact on the universe. So, first and foremost, I personally believe that entrepreneurs are going to solve the problems of the planet. Now, people think, oh, government will do it or nonprofit or something like that. But really, truly, I love entrepreneurs because they're the only group of people, they see a problem. And instead of going, woe is me, or I wish somebody deal with it, they go, I wonder how I could make money solving that. And I literally realized the definition of an entrepreneur is they can take something nobody wants, someone else's garbage, do what they do best, and turn it into someone else's treasure. So if you think about a real entrepreneur, they'll find ways to make money and have an impact by solving problems. So one example, I can't remember the name of the nonprofit, but it is run by an entrepreneur. I can assure you, they take plastic waste out of the ocean and they turn it into products that people pay for. And what that does is those products then pay to take more garbage out of the ocean to create more products. So they're doing good and making money in the process. So that's what I love about entrepreneurs. And really what Big Thinker Universe is, it's a open source asynchronous think tank for really, really entrepreneurial visionary people who want to find ways to expand their impact in the universe. Now, that's why I do what I do. I believe that with the help, the right guidance, the right help, entrepreneurs will find the biggest problems on the planet and they'll find solutions for them. So this is my goal, is to help entrepreneurs channel their vision. And one of the things I see with a lot of visionaries is they struggle to take their vision and turn it into reality. So as I go through life, I'm going to share some of the things that I've encountered. I'm going to meet and share some of my friends and their struggles and journeys. And basically, what we're going to do is create a place where people can hopefully come find some inspiration, maybe find some resources, and use that to turn their vision into their reality. So, in my experience, I want to talk about a few little things, and these are just some topics we're going to cover in the course of this podcast. And as I said, I'll be sharing my ideas, I'll be sharing my journey, I'll be sharing my experiences, and I'll invite my friends on to do the same. So this is not a here's how to do something. I'm not here to tell you what to do. I'm just here to show you what's worked for me, what's worked for my friends, and I'll leave it to you. You're visionaries. You don't need me to connect the dots. But you can take what you like from this, you can distill the essence and run with it. So in my many, many years as a former accountant, one of the things I noticed was that my clients needlessly struggled. And as a reformed accountant, as a recovering accountant, I now focus more on the business growth aspect. The aha moment for me was that a lot of these businesses struggle because they're busy with tactics. And the symptoms of someone who's busy with tactics is you're always busy, you're always running flat out. You think, I just got to do this next thing and then I'll be successful, or one more thing and then I'll be successful. Society has glorified this grind culture. And for the record, I am not opposed to grinding. What I am opposed to is grinding for the sake of grinding. So if grinding helps you achieve your objectives, great. But if grinding is just there to make you busy, stop. So here's the number one thing when I deal with businesses and I talk to people and I do consultations, the first thing we look at is what is our objective? And if you think about it, nobody would play a sport or a board game or a strategy game. Nobody would play if they didn't know the rules, the players, and the objectives. So that's what we're going to talk about in the Big Thinker universe, is how do we play the game? Now, yes, I realize it's your business, it's your dream, it's not a game to you. But the reality is, if we don't know why we're playing the game, my first question is, why would you keep playing? So we want to get really clear, and this is kind of high level. We need to know our objectives. How do we know we're succeeding? How do we know what success looks like? Why are we in this game in the first place? And so I call that the objectives. And usually what I do is I start at the top, we build out the objectives, and then from the objectives, we come down and say, okay, what strategies do we need to achieve our objectives? And then once we know what our strategies are, then we create the tactics. So Sun Tzu in The Art of War, he has a wonderful quote. I think it's tactics without strategy is the noise before defeat, something like that. But without tactics, we also don't get anything done. So every business plan, in my opinion, should have those three things. You have to have your objectives, your strategies, and your tactics. And by the way, I use AI a lot for this kind of thing. ChatGPT and I have a lot of conversations. But if I can't explain my objectives clearly, nobody is going to help me win my game. And by the way, my brain, our human brain is hardwired to seek solutions. So if we have a clear outcome in mind, I'd like to do X because of Y, our brains wrap themselves around it and they try to find ways to make it happen. Our brains do love to create. So number one, if you're not clear on your objectives, you need to stop and reevaluate. And for what it's worth, I'm not telling you to stop forever. I'm just saying spend an hour with a notebook or whiteboard or whatever you like, and just sit down and answer the question, why do I do what I do? And then answer the question, what does success look like for me in this endeavor? So when I talk to people, they say, oh, I'm on social media, and I ask what their objective is. They want to build an audience, they want to build a brand. Yes, and when you build that audience, when you build the brand, what's the point? Because very rarely, unless you want to be a full-time professional influencer, building an audience or building a brand is not a clear objective. You need to sow that. For example, if you sell a product, you want to build an audience or a brand so that we can become the number one player in our marketplace, gets a little clearer. So that's my number one piece of advice to businesses. I don't care if you're big or small, sit down and ask yourself, why do I do what I do? How do I know if I'm successful or not? And I used to talk about the North Star a lot, and I want to bring that up. But basically, a good objective, and might be objectives, let's be clear, but a good objective helps you answer the question, am I getting closer to my goal? Yes or no. Am I closer today than I was yesterday? Yes or no. And if you can't answer that honestly every day, you need to rethink your objectives. Now, I like to have systems. I like to create processes. So in my world, I always have three core objectives. I have my primary, my secondary, and my tertiary objective. And basically those three objectives, they help set the parameters for all that I do. And they are how I answer, am I closer to my goal today than I was yesterday? So if my goal is to build $1 million business, I want to find the shortest path to that goal. I don't want to go on tangents and chase things. If my goal is to build a $200,000 a year revenue so that I can take care of my family, it's going to have different strategies and a different effort level required. So again, get clear on your objective before you commit your time and energy to grinding, as we talked about earlier. Now, once we get clear on our objectives, then we pick the strategies that we know have been proven to work or we suspect will work. And the difference there is we want to focus most of our energy on known successful strategies. And if I can be so bold, the things that worked in the 1930s, 1940s, 1950s, 1960s, hell, 1800s, the strategies that have survived the test of time work because they work. So if you want to find good business strategies, look to the world before digital. Now, here's the thing, a good strategy can be applied in different scenarios, but really, truly, strategy defines the tactics that we use. So here you're asking, what's the shortest path to the success route that I want? What are some things that is known to work in my industry? What are some things that are in parallel industries that are known to work? The key to strategy is it should be time tested. Now, again, I'm not going to set rules, but in my world, what I try to do is 3/4 of my effort goes into time-tested, proven strategies, and 1/4 or less goes into, I think this will work strategies. Now, what that does is it gives me 3 strategies that I know that'll work, that I can focus on, I can refine, I can optimize, and it allows me to test one that I think will work. Now, the key to that is I test and measure all 4. I'm looking at KPIs, I have my metrics, and basically each one of those, I'm looking at the outcomes that they produce and asking, are they getting me closer to my goal, yes or no? So at the strategy level, I'm often looking at return on investment. And to me, return on investment includes how quickly the money comes back, how much money comes back, and the relative risk of that option. So if something is highly risky, but gives me a great return tomorrow, I'm going to look at that and compare it to something that maybe is low risk or lower risk. Maybe it takes a little longer and it still gives me the same return. If I'm risk averse, I'm going to go for the second one. So at the objective level, it needs to be something that we can get our heart and mind into, we're passionate about. At the strategy level, we're starting to say, here's the general path we're going to take. Now, I'm not kidding. A lot of my clients say, Jeff, stop thinking, just give me something to do. Please don't ever ask me that because it makes my head explode. The tactics need to be driven by the strategy. So what I do in my business, and I will be doing some examples of this going forward, but what I do is once I've gotten clear on my objectives and my strategy, then I start to look at tactics. Now, at the strategy level, there are a bunch of assessments you can look at. You can look at the Covey matrix or Eisenhower matrix, depending on where you've learned it first. You can look at SWOT analysis. There's a lot of things you can look at the strategic level. At the tactical level, we should have a measurable KPI or metric for every tactic. So again, I'll get somebody, they'll come to me and their first question is, how do I optimize my YouTube channel? I'm really annoying because my first question is, why do you have a YouTube channel? What do you hope to accomplish? So here's the thing. If you don't know why you're doing something, you're just grinding for the sake of grinding. Now, if your goal is to be Mr. Beast and to build a massive empire through a YouTube channel, that's going to be a very different strategy than if you are a small local business and you just like to get 10 new clients by sharing some content on YouTube. So the strategies will be determined by your objectives. And of course, the tactics, if your goal is just to share content with friends and family and clients, you don't need to spend all the time and energy and effort to build a massive channel. You just need to get it started today. Now, if your goal is to build a multi-million viewer channel, then you need a lot of very specific tactics. So as I can't stress this enough, don't start tactics until you can clearly answer, why am I doing it? How do I know if it's succeeding? So if our goal is to grow a YouTube channel, our metrics should measure what we're accomplishing relative to what we want to accomplish. So that's another little nuance that a lot of small business owners, and quite frankly, even some larger ones, they get busy doing the activity, they don't stop and ask why. So those are my 3 fundamentals. If you don't have those 3 building blocks, you're going to struggle no matter what you do. So we want to have the objectives, the strategy, and the tactics.